back to Oliver Dickson. And Oliver, part of what I'm picking up is that this is not only a test in terms of where we stand, where the road forks now for us as a nation and a democracy. It's not just a test for former President Jacob Zuma, the question of what will he do. It's not just a test for his supporters to say what will they do along the lines of Lula da Silva or otherwise, or they just let him go to prison and it becomes a matter. But the third leg of this test, I would say, is the test now to the Ramaphosa administration as well, right? Because that order is very clear. He either hands himself over or after 3 days of the expiry of the 5-day deadline, you as the Minister of Police, the police commissioner, must ensure that you take all measures to ensure that he goes to prison. So one way or another, it's tests for everyone, all round. You get a test, you get a test, we all get a test.
The ANC will have to release a statement today still opining on this judgment, right? And it will say something to the effect that we respect the authority of the court, we accept the judgment, we will study the judgment, and we will discuss it amongst ourselves in our various structures. It will say something to that effect. But when it comes down to the wire, will the ANC, when Jacob Zuma's recalcitrant behavior continues, will the ANC put pressure on President Ramaphosa's administration, in particular Bheki Cele, who visited eNCA during the time Jacob Zuma defied the constitutional court order to appear before the commission? Will that be the same man that gives an instruction, or at least the commissioner gives an instruction that Jacob Zuma must be arrested? And that resources must be used to find him, should it be the case that no one knows where he is. They'll pretend to not know where he is for quite a while before pressure builds for them to actually arrest him. Let's be clear here. They will use, and much like what we've seen in the Nkandla judgment when the public protector report came out, saying that no, that what happened there at Nkandla was not right. What the political institutions did then is that they commissioned every other investigative body to investigate this thing just to delay it as much as possible. What these people will do now is use the minority judgment as a canvassing tool to try and delay. But there's no structure to which they can delay except to politically canvass for it and to grandstand. And at the end of the day, that capital will run out. You cannot use the minority judgment as some sort of canvassing tool, as Mzwanele Manye already attempted to do earlier on, because the minority, holding on to the minority judgment as a reason to defy the court is jurisprudentially dishonest, it is politically cheap, and it is intellectually vacuous, and you can't do that. But importantly, what the political implication of the majority judgment is here is that democracy cannot be rescued by political compromises that come at the cost of accountability. And today, accountability, one, although this judgment, and we should be very careful of canvassing this judgment as a panacea for accountability, because it is not. The work of accountability does not just happen in courts. The work of accountability happens in political chambers. The work of accountability happens in civil society. And the work of accountability requires you and I, Tulas, to roll up our sleeves and get our hands dirty in the mud when we do the work. That's where accountability happens. It is not a judgment that is going to miraculously paintbrush the entire country and political system as one that is susceptible to accountability. In fact, if the insult to our intelligence that we witnessed yesterday by Zizi Kodwa is anything to go by, this sort of behavior will not go away anytime soon. But the court was very clear that Jacob Zuma's behavior erodes our constitutional values, and it cannot allow that to continue. It is up to you and I to make sure that the political heads take heed to this call and respect this sort of judgment. We have to put the pressure on them. Jacob Zuma must be arrested if he fails to hand himself over in 5 days, and Bheki Cele must not shy away from having the South African Police Service issue out that arrest.
Oliver, I want to let you go now, but I wanted you to just address this matter as succinctly as you can in your special way, in the way that you do, always clear and incisive. But I wanted to talk about, how this split judgment, 7-2, 7 justices saying Absolutely. Contempt of court. He must report to prison and serve 15 months. And two justices of the Constitutional Court, Justice Jafta and Teron, saying, going in a different direction, not agreeing with the majority. You mentioned a few minutes ago, you described it as jurisprudentially dishonest. I like that phrase. Just explain to the ordinary South African why this matters little, in that it doesn't form what is known as the ratio decidendi of the court, the reason for the decision of the court. The majority judgment is the one that carries the day, right?
Let's be clear here, Tulas, that the court is unanimous that Jacob Zuma was in defiance of the court and that he's in contempt of court. There's no split on that. There's no judge that believes otherwise. Where the judges do split, where Theron and Majid and Jafta do split, Theron and Jafta do split away, is what the appropriate sanction should be. And even then, they do concede that there must be some sort of a sanction, right? That Jacob Zuma cannot walk away from the scot-free. So even using the minority judgment as a canvassing tool to bastardize the court, the constitutional court, no less, is jurisprudentially dishonest, because because both judgments, the minority and the majority judgments, are very clear that there is an act of contempt of court and that a sanction is due, and they split very minorly so on what the appropriate sanction should be.
Right.
And and by the way, minority judgments and majority judgments, split judgments, that is to say, happen all the time. That doesn't reduce the effectiveness of those judgments.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And it's not the first time that we have seen this emphasis on the minority judgment being made, particularly in a matter involving former President Jacob Zuma. You'll remember that the last time when Chief Justice Mogoeng penned a minority judgment, I think it was the impeachment case, basically saying that this is judicial overreach. And that became the one issue that people were latching on to on the side of former President Jacob Zuma. Oliver Dickson, thank you for your insights and inputs here on All Angles on eNCA. Let me